David said, "My life was recorded in your book before one of them came to be." Today, we retell our stories, which is God's story. And now, here is God's story.
Hi, everyone. So today we've got the amazing Hannah sharing her story with us. So welcome, Hannah.
Thank you.
To start off with this, how did you come to faith?
Right, so I was born out in West Africa, Niger, where my parents were actually serving as missionaries out there. So we lived on a compound of missionaries. So I grew up kind of surrounded and immersed in kind of Christianity, and kind of going to church was normal, and I only really knew Christians. But actually that meant that I didn't really understand that there's anything different to kind of how my parents were living and kind of the life that they were living as missionaries and those who were called out there. I remember maybe around the age of, I think it was about 8, my mum sit me down and being really excited because my friend Karis had become a Christian, and she was so excited about this news. And I remember just being really baffled, like I just didn't understand. I didn't get what it was about. I didn't understand that there was something extra to kind of how we were living and what they had chosen to live. So that really prompted kind of a searching for me and trying to work out what it was that Karis had, my friend, that I didn't, and kind of how you got that to say. And that probably took quite a few years, really. It wasn't till we probably came back to England, I think it was maybe around the age of 12, we went to a Christian conference called Spring Harvest, which is probably a bit like Keswick kind of nowadays. And I think it was through the children's work there that I kind of really kind of gave my life to God, kind of accepted and understood my sin and believed what Jesus had done for me, and kind of asked for that kind of forgiveness to come into my heart. After that, like, it took a long time still just to grasp God's grace for me. I really battled with that, and just assurance. I was filled with so much doubt for so long, kind of around, was I really saved? But I think that's what's great about faith and coming to faith, is that you don't have to have it all together, and you don't have to have all the answers, and you can still be filled with doubt, and that God uses all that, like it's training and teaching, and he guides us, and he's so gentle. And so it's been a whole long journey, but he's so good. He's been faithful the way through.
So how did you feel when you came to faith, and finally you became a Christian, and how did that make you feel, and how has your life changed?
I think there was a real just deep peace and joy. It's hard to explain just when suddenly your eyes are open, because it's like a healing in the Bible. I can't remember what it is, where God touches his eyes and he can kind of see partly. It's like people are like trees, and then he touches his eyes again and he can fully see. And it's like I had all this knowledge and facts about God, but I just couldn't piece it together. But when God opens your eyes and you finally can see and understand, that is just such a deep joy and peace. There's challenges, as I'll probably share a bit more, but there's challenges in the journey of faith. God is always, he is so faithful in how he carries us through and teaches us.
That is really good. So actually that leads me on to the next question for you. So how have you dealt with challenges in your Christian faith? Because as you described, life is not all rosy for us as Christians. We're faced with challenges here day in and day out. So how have you dealt with challenges, and what is that like for you?
There are so many challenges, and kind of think what to pick challenges in kind of parenting and marriage. One challenge, I suppose I would kind of look back on and kind of see how God was faithful through that, was actually from the age of about 12 maybe to the age of 26. I really suffered with depression quite badly, and it wasn't really something that was spoken of back then with mental health. So it probably wasn't until I was about age maybe 24 that I actually realized it was depression I've been suffering with. It was a good long spread of just real challenges in my mental health, and how you kind of grapple that with faith as well, because I kind of felt as a Christian you're meant to be kind of happy all the time and joyful, and I really battled with that kind of feeling of like almost unworthiness, because I had just such a deep, depression really. But what God taught me was, through all that, like, he is such a faithful friend. The depths, that kind of emptiness, those who have suffered depression, I still bear the scars of self-harm, and I'd be times of suicidal, but like God, there was just always his presence there. I can't even tell, like, even in the deepest emptiness, like, I can't even tell, he was always such a close friend. And I have such blessed memories of those kind of dark times of real closeness to God, in kind of just, that pouring out of your heart. And like, he was just so faithful through it all. And he was good in how he kind of guided me in community as well. Like, I was, I think there was still like back then, a stigma with mental health. I didn't really understand what's going on, and I kept it very much to myself. I didn't seek any help from anyone. I didn't talk to anyone about it. And God was really gentle in how he kind of brought me out of that, like little by little, and kind of being able to share with my sister eventually on a car journey. And we went to, I think it was a women's week, we went away at church, and some people had shared about their struggles with depression, and I just didn't feel alone anymore, and I could share then. And then I got involved in some outreach, and part of that involved having to share your testimony on the website. So just little by little, he enabled me to open up and be the in-church community where people can kind of spur you on and encourage you. And he equips you with truth as well. Like, so much of depression and mental health is that your mind is filled with such lies about who you are and your identity. And just having a faith in a God who you can ground yourself in real truth in who you are and who he is. And you can keep preaching that over yourself even when you're not feeling it. Like, there's such power in that, and strength that you don't realize at the time, but to have like that anchor when your life is just so chaotic and your mind's so chaotic. And he's a healer. God is such a healer, not necessarily in the sense he just takes the depression away, but he could help me heal in forgiving other people, like that forgiveness of others and forgiveness of myself. That kind of healing, that step by step, kind of helped me out of my depression. And again, that only comes by the grace of God and through faith. And ultimately as well, like, he brings good from it, to be able to, he uses my experience of depression to be able to minister to other people who go through those as well. So you see real good in those challenges as well. So that's one big challenge, and how God has been faithful and used even things. That's a big scale challenge, but in little ways God is just he's always there in the challenges and teaching and leading.
So awesome. Thank you. So, I mean, what do you think your life would have been without your faith?
The word like lost, I think. It just, my life might not look very different on the surface to what it is now. I mean, I might have slightly different priorities, so I might be a bit more successful than I am now. But there's a sense, so as a Christian, there's times when I'm far from God's presence, and I feel that, like, almost like a grief, like there's something missing and a longing. And I know what it is. I know it's God, like, I'm longing for and I'm searching for again. So I feel like as a Christian without faith, you'd have that longing but not know what you're searching for. So it's like this relentless searching for something and trying to fill it with things. So I feel like that while on the surface your life could be quite happy and successful, I feel like there would be this deep down kind of grief and loss in kind of, I'm trying to feel something. So that's kind of what comes to mind when I think about a life without faith.
Wow, that is really amazing, that in our journey with Papa and the way he loves us, is just that intimacy with him, lean onto him, and he's the one who keeps filling us up. He knows the depths of our hearts. He knows where our deepest needs are, like you're saying. We have this longing in us, and I think the world presents a lot of things that makes it looks like this will fill you up. But then only him, like I keep saying, the creator of the universe, he knows every depth of your heart. He knows where all the emptiness are, and he knows exactly how to fill it. And I think that's a treasure we have in a relationship with God, that when we lean on him, when we keep trusting in him, like you said, we'll face all the challenges, we'll face everything that life throws at us. The difference is we can fall back on our anchor. God is the anchor who can sustain us, keep us on the surface. So in saying this, I just want to ask you, so how have you dealt with like doubt, or some people call it unanswered prayers, or struggling with faith? How does that play in your journey with God?
Yeah, I don't think you can be a Christian and not battle doubt. Sometimes, you feel like, as a Christian, you shouldn't have those feelings. But a pastor called Tyler I think it's Staton. He said his words were, "A single moment, even a miraculous moment of encounter with God, is not enough to sustain the weight of a lifetime worth of belief, because eventually something will happen that you can't process." And I think it's so true for me. Like, I've had so many times battling doubt, and I'll share one. It's probably back in March where I really kind of struggled with doubt. I have a friend who, she's had all kind of health complications with ulcerative, colitis, where she had a large intestine removed, and then eventually she couldn't really eat very well, so she was peg fed through her stomach, and then eventually she couldn't tolerate even more, so she's now on TPN, so it's like fed straight into her vein. And then, so I think it was last March, so always praying for healing for her. And last March, she actually became a Christian. She was saved, and I can't remember how soon after, but maybe a few weeks after, she was driving along, and I think she heard a lyric to a song, and she felt this sensation in her body, and she just knew she was healed. And straight away, like, she was eating KFC. So this girl, she hadn't eaten like a solid meal for I don't know how many years. She'd be eating KFC. We were like, had a list of all these meals she was going to try, lasagna, she had shepherd's pie.
Just have them all.
We had it all. We had a whole list. We were praising God. It was amazing. But then maybe 4 months later, pain back, like she couldn't eat again. Healing was gone. And I can't tell you that year. So this March was a year kind of her becoming a Christian, and her just in such, I suppose, just grief to have tasted that freedom and then for it to go. And I can't tell you just how that really affected my faith, like to pray and see healing, to see salvation. And I have so many unanswered prayers of people have been praying for healing or salvation. And suddenly it just felt so crushing. I just felt like, these weren't doubts of like, the world created in 7 days. It's kind of like, I doubt God's good. I doubt you actually care. I doubt you're sovereign. It was just like crushing doubts of like, I don't think I actually like you. What's the point in praying if you're just going to take things away? Like, I couldn't, and it was like a deep grief. Like, I probably didn't really want to speak to God, but probably about near the end of March, I could really even write just a prayer to him, because I was just so angry at him. So there was such a, it was really like, I don't think I've felt it that heavy before, just doubting God's goodness. And I don't know if I've even might have an entry here when I finally could write a prayer out, and I can read it. It said, Heavenly Father, I feel lost. I've lost your presence. I feel like that wave of doubt tossed around by the wind, struggling to reground myself, to recenter, to find the faith again, to know the Spirit's power guiding and enlivening my faith. My failure and sin is before me, and I can't see you or grasp the hope. My life feels lifeless without your presence. I feel disillusioned in my faith and discouraged. Holy Spirit, help me. Father, teach me. Help me to make it back home. So you can see there's a real just you can see the place I was kind of in, but God, he's good. He he doesn't leave us in that kind of wrestling. And actually, he kind of let me. I was on Audible, and it just happened this book got recommended. I think it was a godsend, but yeah, by this Pastor Tyler, who'd written a book called what's it called? I think it's like the high tightrope walk between faith and doubt, and he kind of looks at doubting Thomas and how Thomas kind of he yelled at the sky, like he's expressed his doubt, like unless I touch your hand and your feet, I will not believe. But how God left him, left him in that silence, and it was almost 8 days before Jesus actually showed up to meet him, and it was an encounter with God that broke through to Thomas. And he kind of talks about, when we're struggling with doubt, you keep voicing those concerns, God. Actually, silence shouldn't be where we go. It actually should pour out hearts, like Job did, like David did. You keep pouring out your heart to God in those moments, and how you wait on God, like actually waiting is where our faith grows. If God was a God of instant gratification, we wouldn't need faith. And actually, you have to trust that the wait it's like building a muscle of faith almost. And I really felt it did do that through that time. And he talks about how belonging, being part of a community, that actually Jesus re-encountered Thomas when he was back in his group of disciples. Because actually when Jesus first showed up, Thomas wasn't with the disciples. About community when we're struggling and doubting. And ultimately, what breaks us out of those places is encounter with God, like God himself. And so it probably took till the end of April, but God, he showed up. And I can't even explain it. He just, a bit like Job, and he just reveals his character and his presence. Suddenly you're like, you break it and you just worship again and say, you are good. I can't explain that. I just see you again, like through it all. That would be kind of my story. Like, doubt is real, and it can be a real wrestling time, but just to lean into that almost as well. God, he's not scared of our doubt. He knows how to meet us there, and just trust that you will encounter him on the other side, and actually your faith will be strengthened through that process as well.
Wow.
It's beautiful.
That is, amazing. My goodness. God knows how to stretch our faith. He knows how to pull us along, and he knows, how to take us to the deepest of places. And like you're saying, it's easy when you are in a dark place, because I think in the world we are rejected when things are not right with us. So there was a sort of thing that does the same thing with the Father, but he doesn't work that way. Like, I love what you said. He's not afraid of our doubts. He's not afraid of anything that we think, oh no, I can't bring this to you. He's got big arms to take it all in, and it's that knowing that whatever darkness that we are in, just bring it to him. Handle it. He's not afraid of it. He's got room to take it all in, and he's the only one who can make it better, isn't it?
So wow, such an amazing story that you've shared tonight, Hannah. So I was just going to ask, what would be one thing that you say to people who struggle with doubt or don't have faith in God at all?
Good question. Those who haven't got faith at all, I'd probably say, just test and see. Like it says in the Bible, like seek and you'll find, ask and it will be given. I'd encourage you to check out one of the Gospels, where you kind of see the story of Jesus. Like if you want to know what God's like, you just got to examine Jesus and decide yourself, do I like who God is? Do I believe that he was God? And actually Jesus shows the character of God so well in his actions. And so I'd kind of just challenge you to kind of open up a gospel and see for yourself, and just pray that God will kind of give you eyes to see, like he is near and he wants you to see. I'd encourage you in that. And those who are struggling with doubt, like I've shared, those three things really, just keep pouring your heart out to God, whatever that looks like. Whether it's just in tears, the Spirit can transfer and communicate our groans, whether it's through writing, whether it's just shouted it out, you just keep communicating to God and wait, be patient in the waiting. Like I say, it was about a 2-month wait for me till God, I really felt God broke through my doubt. Stay in community, When we're on our own, it's hard to grapple with doubt. Sometimes we need to get behind someone else who's ahead, who is kind of just, so I don't know, full of faith, and they can kind of spur you on and encourage you on, and we kind of take turns of kind of spurring each other on in our faith, and just know, like I said, like God's waiting, he's waiting to show up, and he will meet you in just the way that you need, and just trust that waiting time.
Yeah, well, that's so good. Such great, insight into what people can do. I love what you said about community, because a lot of us as Christians, we feel like we can do life alone. But actually, if we look into the Bible, all the Christians live in community. They never did anything alone. So yeah, thank you very much for sharing that.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us on this session. Hannah, it's been amazing hearing your story and blessing us with what God has been doing in your life. So God bless you.
I'm Hannah. This is my story, God's story.